Welcome back to Chronicles on the Focus, the podcast where we dive deep into the fascinating stories behind the things that capture our attention. I'm Bob, and with me as always is the ever-curious Alice. Today, we're taking a trip into a spooky world of folklore. We're talking about El Coco.
El Coco, the boogeyman, the monster under the bed. Sounds like a classic, but you wouldn't believe the depth of this myth, Bob. It's like a cultural onion, with layers and layers of history and symbolism. We're going to peel back those layers and see what we find.
I'm excited to hear this, Alice. So, El Coco is a ghost-like monster, right? But where does it come from? Is it just a Spanish version of the boogeyman?
Well, it's definitely a boogeyman, but it's so much more. El Coco originated in northern Portugal and Galicia, and its name, Coco, actually comes from the Galician and Portuguese word for coconut. Imagine that. A monster named after a fruit.
That's hilarious. So, what exactly does this coconut monster do?
El Coco is all about keeping children in line. Parents would tell their kids that if they didn't behave, El Coco would come and eat them. And El Coco isn't picky. It devours children whole and takes them away to a place of no return. It's like a child-eating boogeyman with an air of mystery about it.
That's pretty terrifying, but there's a lot more to this myth than just scaring kids, right? You mentioned layers.
You bet. For example, the word Coco also means skull in Spanish. This connection to the skull, to death, is super significant. El Coco wasn't just a monster to frighten children. It represented the fear of death, the unknown, and the dark side of humanity.
Whoa, that's heavy. And the Cuca version of El Coco, is that even spookier?
The Cuca is even more fascinating. In Brazilian folklore, the Cuca is a female version of El Coco, and she's depicted as a humanoid alligator. It's like a mix of scary reptile and seductive witch. She was a popular villain in children's books in Brazil.
A humanoid alligator? That's a nightmare waiting to happen. I love how the myth morphed and adapted across different cultures.
Exactly. The El Coco myth also has these really interesting connections to Celtic traditions. For example, it has roots in the Celtic belief in the land of the dead, and the concept of severed heads having magical power. And can you believe it? This myth even influenced the name of the coconut. The sailors of Vasco da Gama thought the coconut resembled the Coco monster, and the name stuck.
I never knew coconuts were so spooky. It's amazing how a seemingly simple monster can be so steeped in history and cultural meaning.
It's a reminder that even something as simple as a bedtime story can be a window into complex cultural beliefs. And who knows, maybe El Coco is still watching us all, lurking in the shadows, waiting for us to misbehave.
Maybe we should all be extra good from now on, just in case. Thanks for taking us on this fascinating journey into the world of El Coco, Alice. This is a story we won't soon forget.
And for those of you listening, keep your eyes peeled for coconuts. They might be hiding something spooky. Until next time, folks, stay curious.